Mom, can you tell me a story?
Sure. Once upon a time, a mom needed a new car.
Was she brave?
She was tired, mostly. But she went to Carvana.com and found a great car at a great price. No secret treasure map required.
Did she have to fight a dragon?
Nope, she bought it 100% online. From her bed, actually.
Was it scary?
Honey, it was as unscary as car buying could be.
Did the car have a sunroof?
It did, actually.
Okay, good story.
Car buying you'll want to tell stories about. Buy your car today on
Carvana.
Delivery fees may apply.
This episode is brought to you by State Farm. You know those friends who support your preference for podcasts over music on road trips? That's the energy State Farm brings to insurance. With over 19,000 local agents, they help you find the coverage that fits your needs, so you can spend less time worrying about insurance and more time enjoying the ride. Download the State Farm app or go online at statefarm.com. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Amazon presents Jeff versus Taco Truck Salsa. Whether it's Verde, Roja, or the orange one. For Jeff, trying any salsa is like playing Russian roulette with a flamethrower. Luckily, Jeff saved with Amazon and stocked up on antacids, ginger tea, and milk. Habanero? More like habanero, yes. Save the everyday with Amazon.
Fear is the virus is trending on TikTok. Vaccines are poison. Then your yoga teacher says that sex-trafficked children are being sacrificed by satanic liberals, but it's all okay. The Great Awakening is coming. What is happening? Every week on Conspirituality Podcast, we explore the fever dreams that suck friends, family, and wellness gurus down the right-wing cult spiral in a search for salvation.
Have you ever wondered why we call French fries, or why something is the greatest thing since sliced bread? There are answers to those questions. Everything Everywhere Daily is a podcast for curious people who want to learn more about the world around them. Every day, you'll learn something new about things you never knew you didn't know. Subjects include history, science, geography, mathematics, and culture. If you're a curious person and want to learn more about the world you live in, just subscribe to Everything Everywhere Daily wherever you cast your pod.
I don't think I've ever thought about this.
The comment is made by me now, Elhassan, or made by him and him himself, and nobody else. And
if you could
basketball
do a
Illuminati,
dream board about fame,
or any guest
success,
incorporated,
money. What do I want to be as an NBA player? Like, what is the perfect career? And then this tweet came across my timeline. This was on Monday night. Sam Quinn of CBS says, okay, this is a hill I will die on. The perfect career is Kyle Lowry. You get the experience of being a superstar, but you aren't so iconic that you can't exist in public. Beloved in a single city, I guess Toronto there.
Yeah.
Unknown in most of the world. Won a title, won a gold medal, made money, did it all.
Yeah.
This is in response to someone saying that Tobias Harris had an incredible story, incredible career.
Right.
Totally anonymous, made $250 million, free riding his way into the sunset. I mean, have you ever thought about this?
When I was a kid, I used to watch NBA games and wish I could aspire to be the 11th man. I'm on the bench. I got a courtside seat to every game. I get to hang out with the guys. I'm in the NBA, right? But it's like I have zero pressure to be actually awesome, win and lose a game or whatever. As I got older, obviously I began to realize those people have immense pressure because it's like, how do I stay on? And you have zero job security. Using most of the rubric that you just said, Steve Nash is a name that comes in. This is a guy who's made a bunch of money. He's one of the greatest players to ever play. He's got connections in every kind of industry. He likes soccer, so he got to do like soccer analysis for Turner for a couple of years, for Bleacher Report, part of their studio show. He likes music. He gets to hang out with these music people. He likes comedy. He likes movie making. Anything that Steve Nash has ever wanted to do, he's been able to do. And also, despite being this incredibly popular player, Steve Nash puts on a hat, walks down the street, nobody knows who he is. I'm dead serious. When he was winning MVPs, the active MVP of the league was riding the subway when he'd go to New York in the summertime, and nobody knew it was him because he just put on a hat, and he looks like a slightly tallish guy. But then I thought about it. Steve Nash, no rings, no gold medals. So then I thought to myself, there's another Steve Kerr. Ooh. Now, I've won a bunch of rings in a bunch of different places with a bunch of different people across a bunch of different generations. I am ubiquitous like that. Made great money as a coach. As a player, his last deal with
15 mil
with San Antonio. I mean, 15 mil is good money, especially 15 mil.
It's not Tobias Harris money, you know?
In 1999, 15 mil was a lot of money, right?
Well, it's interesting with Steve Kerr because he's more famous and more rich now
as a coach,
than he ever was as a player.
He's a 5-time champion as a player.
But having said that, Steve Kerr's still kind of a normal looking dude. Walk down the street, again, slightly taller than your average guy, but Steve Kerr puts on a hat, nobody knows who he is. Maybe in the Bay, but I'm telling you, like, he's walking down the street in Dallas.
Interesting.
Or in Atlanta, nobody knows who he is.
You seem to have a type here.
Yeah.
6'3".
People I worked with?
White.
I'm checking my white privilege here is that I don't fully appreciate how nice it is to be white and 6 feet tall.
No one would ever think you're an NBA player.
Here's another one. Goran Dragic. I'm a hero in my country, a literal hero. You won a Eurobasket gold medal, which is the biggest accomplishment in the history of a basketball-crazy country. In a way, he's still kind of more popular back there than Luka Doncic is, even though Luka Doncic is a much greater player. Made a bunch of money. Also, Goran, not excessively tall, like a 6'3", 6'4" kind of guy. Put on a hat. Nobody knows who he is, except in Slovenia.
So is Manu Ginobili the apex here for you?
I would never be Manu Ginobili.
Sorry, forgot. The whole Suns thing threw me off.
And he's Argentinian. That's double.
Oh, yeah, there's that. But everyone thinks he's European. So you got that, too.
Who else?
Is Steph Curry the answer?
Steph has passed the Rubicon as far as I can go anywhere I want and no one knows. Steve Kerr can go to the movies. Steve Nash can go to the movies. Goran Dragic can go to the movies. Steph Curry can't go to the movies. Never. Ever again.
The Megan Thee Stallion Klay Thompson thing shed some interesting light on how famous an NBA player is outside of NBA circles. And so I wonder, where does Klay stack up? You know, he's got some rings. He's living on his boat.
A little tall.
6'6". I'm 6'6", you know?
Too tall, yeah.
That'd be nothing for me. That'd be my normal life.
Well, don't you feel tall?
You're too tall, Mace. You can't go anywhere without people asking you who you are. Think about it.
That's tough.
Now imagine if you were Klay Thompson. Then you have to answer, oh yeah, I am actually this incredibly famous rich guy who won championships and whose father wasn't singing Mano La Mancha, but rather he was playing in the NBA, winning rings as well.
Okay. What about if you were Jalen Duren and you could disappear?
Oh.
And also you're about to get a $200+ million extension.
Wow.
Topical.
And if you're anonymous, you're just named Jalen.
Oh, yeah, just Jalen, period.
Oh, you're Jalen? Okay, yeah, sure. Okay.
Why so many Jalens in the NBA? I think it's way too many Jalens in the NBA. Went to sleep and it was 10 Jalens in the NBA. Woke up and now it's 30 Jalens in the NBA. We got Jalen Smith on the Bulls and Jalen with a Y playing for the Timberwolves. Think it's a joke, but I'm actually earnest. Tell the truth, that ain't even really scratching the surface. Cause there's 607 players on the court playing. The 16 teams got a player named Jalen. And it's really 2 Jalens on 3 teams. That's gotta be like 50% of the league. In the crib trying to figure what it all really means. I know they mama raised them like my son is my king. And I could probably recognize them all by facial. And I wouldn't be surprised if they was all biracial. Look, why so many Jalens in the NBA? I think it's way too many Jalens in the NBA. Went to sleep and it was 30 Jalens in the NBA. Woke up and now it's 80 Jalens in the NBA.
I think Jalen Brunson could get away with it. Not New York, though. New York, absolutely not. But anywhere else, I think Jalen Brunson.
Yeah, as the Athletic said, he has an average man's body. So
yeah,
there you go.
Or, here's one for you. Alex Caruso. Too tall, right?
No, that's pretty good. What about if we're going Amin Steve theory? So Steve Nash, Steve Kerr. What about Steve Blake?
Not enough money and not enough career accolades. So I think back to childhood Amin and what kind of career I would have wanted. The guy I look at is like, that's him right there. Garrett Temple. That's exactly who I was thinking of in my head. He was more successful than my childhood fantasy would have been, right? He played. He was a rotation player at one point in his career, but been around, part of the NBPA. He's just going to keep getting deals. Oh, actually, you know what? I take it back. I know who it is. Garrett Temple, yes, you are exactly what childhood of me wanted.
Can I guess?
Go ahead.
TJ McConnell?
No, not TJ McConnell.
Oh.
I was trying to think of who's the player. He's made money. He hasn't won a whole lot, but he's been in the league a million years and will always have a spot in the league. But also, most importantly, nobody will mess with him. It's blood sport. It's James Johnson.
Yeah, but he's too big.
Too big, but what are you going to do about it? I'll roundhouse you. How about that?
It's true. You're right. It's one demon deacon or the other. It's either Ish Smith, who is the Garrett Temple of his day.
Yeah.
The god of the Garrett Temples is Ish Smith. Or if you're looking for super lucrative career, very successful, not very tall, has seen it all in the league, Chris Paul. Didn't win a ring, though. So this is Steve Nash problem.
But also Chris Paul, very recognizable face.
Because of State Farm?
Because of State Farm commercials.
Cliff.
I mean, we got to circle all the way back to Kyle Lowry because
Kyle Lowry, he's a great pick.
In June 2019, @Large Soda tweeted, Kyle Lowry has a fat ass and a ring. A lot of you bitches can't relate.
Kyle definitely, he's not tall for sure. He's about my height, but he's so stocky that I think that makes him recognizable. But maybe not. Maybe Kyle Lowry puts on a hat and nobody knows who he is either. Kyle Lowry could be your bus driver, right? And you wouldn't even think twice.
Is it Bob Cousy?
Right? Like
I hope not.
If he's dressed like Cedric the Entertainer in The Honeymooners.
Somehow I knew you were going there.
Yeah.
If he's dabbing and driving down Broadway, yeah, maybe then.
Breaking the fourth wall, backing up, sees Gabby Union, starts dancing around her.
Can I do this on StatHead?
Can you add some categories there?
Yeah. Under 6'2", right? So we got to go under 6'2", has won a championship.
Uh-huh.
What about Bradley Beal?
Yeah, Brad.
340 million career earnings.
Yeah.
Mike Conley, 295.
That's a good one.
Mike Conley's a great one. Have you ever seen Mike Conley's house?
Championship, though. That's a tough one.
He might. The season's not over yet.
How about
Drew Holiday?
Pretty good one.
Drew's tall, but he's got a lot of money and he's got 2 rings.
320 million.
Kyrie's got 1 ring, but Kyrie has a lot of money. Kyrie's recognizable though, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kyrie can't walk down the street. You need to be able to walk down the street. I think Holiday might be too recognizable.
Speaking of Kyrie, did you see his movie tweet?
He's got another movie tweet.
Wait, what?
Remember the first one?
Here's his tweet. May 8th. The Truman Show. Westworld. Billions. Law and Order SVU. Blue Chips. The Simpsons. The 100. Every Black Mirror episode. Supposedly fiction.
Keep your third eye open, man.
He puts us to shame, man. We've really fallen off.
Yeah, he really does.
We need to do a better job. You know what?
The Simpsons?
Impromptu Illuminati meeting. We've got to do a better job of keeping our third eye open on
We
something.
really do, man.
We've been doing a regular basketball podcast last couple of weeks here, and I'm like, we got to ratchet that shit back up. Our fearless leader, Kyrie Irving, has put us to shame. You guys think you're doing something?
That's the career that we should all aspire to. The top of the mountain, Kyrie Irving.
My assignment. Uncover why the association inspires more conspiracy theories in volume and salience than any other U.S. sport.
You've heard of the Illuminati.
The truth is out there, but so are lies.
Your eyes can deceive you. Don't trust them.
The NBA has always been controlled by about 8 people.
Denial is the most predictable of all human responses.
If you're only using 10% of your brain, you don't even know that you're using 10% of your brain.
The NBA Illuminati.
If coincidences are just coincidences, why do they feel so contrived?
The Illuminati.
But you start to follow the money, and you don't know where the f*** it's going to take you.
It is unspoken. They have influence among other players.
The NBA Illuminati.
I don't have time for your convenient ignorance.
Maybe I'm a conspiracist now as well.
That's all it took. Oh, we got books, we got schools. You saw a video on YouTube.
Why my eyes, sir? I've never used them before.
We are the Basketball Illuminati.
This is Basketball Illuminati. I am Tom Haberstroh, and as always, I am joined by the 5-star Illuminati General and Pulitzer Prize winning journalist, Amin Elhassan, and producer Anthony Mays.
What's up, Illumination? Thank you for keeping your third eye open. As always, you can support us at patreon.com/countthedings. That'll get you ad-free episodes and help us continue to produce the show. Also, check out our YouTube page at Basketball Illuminati. You can watch our Truth Teller interviews and Do You Believe episodes there. Please subscribe and continue to show your support. Thank you.
Yeah. You hear it, you see it. It's in the air. The Lakers have been disposed in the playoffs, swept by the Oklahoma City Thunder. Same deal with Joel Embiid as 76ers swept by the New York Knicks. We might have ourselves a repeat of the 99 NBA Finals here. Could happen.
It's sweeps week.
Sweeps week. That's right.
Gotta drive those ratings up. What's old is new again. NBC is back, and so are the Spurs and the Knicks.
We're going to bring in Jerome Weitzman back. What's old is new is happening again. He's coming back onto the show. This time not going from one taxi to another. Jerome Weitzman on the show, truth teller, to talk about the Lakers, the Markelle Fultz draft, and Jason Tatum, as well as the 76ers, where we go from here. But first,
you are listening to The Agenda with Amin Elhassan and Tom Haberstroh.
I was noodling on this for a while, guys.
Noodling.
What is brow? Do you think brow is actually Latin for pick? Because unibrow, like first pick, number one pick. I was in the lab, guys, trying to workshop this tweet or this post that I was going to make. Some cheeky way to say that Anthony Davis, the prophecy of Anthony Davis, that if you acquire this guy at a deadline, you're going to get the number one overall pick in that year. Last year it happened with the Dallas Mavericks with Cooper Flagg, and then they move him to the Washington Wizards this year. And guess what happens? The Washington Wizards win the lottery.
Also, if you trade him away is one, because when the Pelicans traded him away, they got the number one overall pick.
Yeah, but I think the back-to-back years is what's special about it. You know, you acquire him and you get it. And that's the selling point for sure for this season.
Rich Paul, he's got a lot here, man.
Washington saying, hey, you want this magic talisman, this Anthony Davis? You could get him and the number one pick. We promise.
Was it Dane Cook? Good Luck Chuck was the movie, right? Where he slept with a woman. She would end up getting married to someone else immediately afterward.
That's right. Cinephobe classic.
Rich Paul, you think he's going to use this?
He should.
Subtly, not like on paper. It's like, hey, if you acquire Anthony Davis, you're going to get the number one overall pick. But do you think he uses this kind of as a wink, wink, nod, nod? Hey, I'm just saying last two teams that acquired Anthony Davis also lucked into lotto.
Here's the question. Can the Wizards then move him to another team that may end up getting the number one overall pick despite him never playing for the Wizards?
It's an amazing story.
How'd you guys feel about Kevin Pritchard with the I touched the ball, coach? Yeah. The ball went off me.
Hey, I don't need to explain my thinking here, but I'm going to say it anyway. I thought we were due. We hadn't moved up in a long time, and I felt like the NBA was going to do us a favor. So the players think it's rigged. Okay, there was a big athletic stories that 1 out of 4 players think that the NBA is rigged.
Yeah.
That they have an integrity problem in the league.
Well, they have an integrity problem. I don't know if that's specific to it being rigged versus...
I mean, we had the executive director or leader of the Players Association, Andre Iguodala, who believed that the referees are on the take. He went on the record in a podcast saying that, yeah, we were told that this whole thing is fixed, that it's rigged. And the referee said it. And I'm like, wow, we've got the head of the players union out here and saying it. But you have Kevin Pritchard also being like, we were due. I felt like we were going to get the top 4 pick this year. And obviously it didn't work out. My bad, everybody. And the odds are the odds. The only way that Kevin Pritchard thinks that he was due is if he thinks that there is some sort of conservation of draft lotto luck that he was supposed to enjoy this year.
That feels like a really reckless way to make basketball decisions.
You were due.
That's roulette. I play roulette in Vegas during Summer League, and I'm basically going off the board. Like, oh yeah, red hasn't coming up in 12 straight times. We'll pick a red one here. Put a bunch of chips on red. What was your math behind it? No math. It's we're due. But it's different because I'm paying like $25 a hand. And Kevin Pritchard.
I'm really sorry to all our fans. I own taking this risk. Surprised it came up 5th after this year. I thought we were due some luck. But please remember, this team deserved a starting center to compete with the best teams next year. We have always been resilient. I'm surprised it came up 5th. It was 50% chance it came up 5th. There's
52% chance it came up top 4.
I don't know. I think it speaks to the intimate relationship that Indiana basketball fans have with their organization. You know, our favorite Caitlin Cooper was devastated by this outcome, and maybe Kevin Pritchard is hoping that by being upfront and taking this one on the chin, he can soften the blow of the hindsight of looking back and saying, why did you put that limited protection on that pick? Why not one more spot, you know?
Yeah, why not one more spot? It was a 20% odds that it would go to 6. That's such a big deal.
While we're talking about Kevin Pritchard, I'm reminded of a different KP, Kevin Pelton. He is going to go work in the front office of the Houston Comets. So Kevin Pelton has left the media world and returned from whence he came, a WNBA front office. Congratulations to him. Congratulations to another former media guy who's going to front office, Mike Schmitz. Mike Schmitz used to be at Draft Express and then ESPN, and then was in the Portland Trailblazers front office as assistant GM. He's going to be the GM of the Dallas Mavericks under Masai Ujiri. So shout out to two friends who have moved on to greener pastures.
Thought it was fitting that in the last year, potentially, of the draft lottery as we know it, we rewarded the two most tankable, tank-tastic teams to ever grace the association.
Counterpoint, the Nets and the Kings were combined 9-49 after the All-Star break. They went full bore. They're no strangers to lottery land, and yet they were not rewarded.
Yeah, but Amin, they just did it the old-fashioned way.
Yep.
Putting people on the shelf and being bad, whereas the Wizards traded for 2 All-Stars and put them away and said, no, not yet, and then also gave up 83 points to Bam Adebayo. And the Utah Jazz actually got fined for their practices and acquired Jaren Jackson Jr. and also managed to make that not happen. So we rewarded the two teams that skirted the rules the most this season with the top 2 picks. Meanwhile, Brooklyn and Sacramento, good luck with the new future.
I had this written down. The Utah Jazz have never moved up in the draft, ever.
Neither have the Heat. The Heat have never moved up in the draft.
The Denver Nuggets have also never moved up in the draft. And 11 times in the lottery, they had never won. This is the Utah Jazz. They've never moved up, and they were only one of 3 teams that was the case for. I think it was Denver, Miami, and Utah. They had the second worst record in the last 4 seasons, the Utah Jazz. The only one that was worse was the Washington Wizards. The Wizards won the lottery in 2001 with Michael Jordan getting Kwame Brown. And in 2010, John Wall. Speaking of the Jazz, do you think they trade up to get number 1 here with the Wizards?
No.
I think Cam Boozer is wildly underrated. I think because people think he's his dad, that the whole netball ball aspect of this whole thing is that people are underrating Cam Boozer, saying he's too grounded, he's not an athlete, he's going to get bullied at the next level. The little known fact is that the Utah Jazz hired Carlos Boozer as a consultant.
Okay.
It might be a hedge. I like this move from the Jazz. You think we're all in on AJ? We're gonna sell the farm in order to get AJ Dybantsa if we don't get the number 1 overall pick. But hey, we really like Cam Boozer. We just hired his dad.
Jeremiah Engelman wrote in his latest piece that everyone loves AJ Dybantsa. My NBA draft model does not.
Yeah, great piece.
Said he scores in the 99th percentile for one of the most damaging predictors in his draft model.
You know what it is?
What is it?
Takes early mid-range 2s. So guys who...
I feel like that's an easy fix, though. Right?
His theory is that it suggests something about his basketball IQ. That's an indicator of some underlying flaw in his basketball game. That there's a high correlation of guys who take a lot of mid-range 2s, contested mid-range 2s, and lack of defensive acumen.
Lack of defensive acumen.
Yeah.
Ooh.
If you look at the guys who are really, really like to take early shot clock, contested 2s, love the mid-range.
Right.
There is not a 1-to-1 correlation, but a very strong collinearity to not having a lot of steals or not having a lot of defensive top markers.
Who are some of the comps?
One of the comps for AJ Dybantsa is RJ Barrett, a guy that I also felt was a little overrated coming out of college, had a really awful free throw shooting rate, loved the mid-range, and has been a solid pro, but I would say has not lived up to his draft slot. Not an all-star, but a pretty solid player.
Right.
If he's a taller RJ Barrett, I think Jazz fans would be kind of disappointed.
Wow, tall RJ Barrett. I like that. Ethan called Ben Simmons 6'10 Rondo in his first summer league. He was calling him 6'10 Rondo.
My favorite Ethan Straussism, draftism from Ethan Strauss is fat is potential in disguise.
Yeah.
There's another Cam Boozer thing. People have a bias against Cam Boozer because they think he's too fat. I think it's potential in disguise.
Potential in disguise. I like the sound of that.
I feel so bad for the Kings. Like, I feel bad for the Pacers, but the GM made that deal knowing the odds, you know?
Yeah. I'm going to go with my gut. Like, I don't know.
I'm going to go with my gut.
The Kings could have gotten any of those picks and still messed it up.
Hell, I think Washington is going to find a way to mess it up. They don't exactly have a great track record of this shit.
Yeah. This is the opening salvo. You still gotta make the pick. You gotta have it not be a Markelle Fultz. And you have to turn that player into a superstar. You have to bridge the gap.
Markelle Fultz. Now, there's a name I haven't heard in a long time.
Well, you know what? We should talk about him. Coming up, Jerome Weitzman of The Hollywood Ending and Tanking to the Top. Author, NBA journalist, aspiring Pulitzer-winning journalist. Jerome Weitzman going to join us on the show. Coming up right now.
Listener, you've got places to be. Let's say your hair's thinning up top. You have time to go to Turkey and sit in a waiting room for some hair loss treatment? Of course not. Hims makes expert care accessible on your schedule so you can skip the line and focus on feeling like yourself again. Hims offers convenient access to a range of prescription hair loss treatments with ingredients that actually work. There's an idea, including chews, oral medications, serums, and sprays, whichever you think is best. Doctor-trusted ingredients like finasteride and minoxidil. Did I say those right? I don't know, but they sound official. Can stop further hair loss and regrow hair in as little as 3 to 6 months. It's like almost no time at all. No hidden fees, no surprise costs, just real personalized care on your schedule. You shouldn't have to go out of your way to feel like yourself. Hims brings expert care straight to you with 100% online access to personalized treatment plans that put your goals first. For simple online access to personalized and affordable care for hair loss, ED, weight loss, and more, visit hims.com/basketball. That's hims.com/basketball for your free online visit. hims.com/basketball.
Hello, listener. Producer Mays here to talk to you about Quince Cookware. I know cooking can feel like a lot of work these days, especially when the temptation to order takeout is stronger than ever. But trust me when I say that quality cookware makes a big difference in your experience cooking at home. I just got myself a set of 3 Staub rectangular baking dishes. Yes, that's Staub because it's French, and French means quality. It's made of Portuguese durable stoneware. It's oven safe up to 570 degrees Fahrenheit. You can even throw it in the freezer if you want. And the best part is, I know I got them at the best possible price. Because everything at Quince is priced 50 to 80% less than what you'd find at similar brands. You heard me right. High quality materials for half the price. How could such a thing be possible? Well, Quince works directly with manufacturers, cutting out the middlemen and passing the savings on to you. Now, Quince even carries fine wine, from Napa Valley Vineyards to Dom Perignon Champagne, enough to fill an aisle. Ho ho! So what are you waiting for? Refresh your everyday with luxury you'll actually use. Go to quince.com/dings for free shipping and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada too. Go to QUINCE.com/dings, DINGS, for free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/dings. Hello, listener. It's Producer Mays here to talk to you about Chime. You know what shouldn't cost money? Managing your money. These old school banks with their monthly fees and their overdraft fees and minimum balance fees and fees on your fees, and they fee you when you're feeing. Not Chime. Chime is changing the way people bank. It's fee-free. That's free of fees, not fees of fees. It's built for you, not like those traditional old banks. Now check out some of these benefits. You get 5% cash back on Chime Card in a category of your choice, like gas or groceries, whatever you're using the most. You get savings that grow faster with a 3.75% APY. That's 9 times higher than the national average. You get premium travel perks, airport lounge access, 24/7 travel concierge. You can even get $500 of your pay with MyPay. They also have Spot Me, which lets you overdraft up to $200 fee-free, all of which make it so much easier to manage your money. Chime is not just smarter banking, it's the most rewarding way to bank. Join the millions who are already banking fee-free today. Head to chime.com/basketball. That's chime.com/basketball. It only takes a few minutes to sign up.
Chime is a fintech, not a bank. Banking services from MyPay and Chime Card provided by Chime's bank partners. Optional products and services may have fees or charges. Stated annual percentage yield and cashback for Chime Prime only. No minimum balance required. Checking account ranking based on a JD Power survey published October 20, 2025. For more information on APY rates, MyPay, SpotMe, and travel perks, go to chime.com/disclosures.
No one goes to Hank's for his spreadsheets. They go for a darn good pizza. Lately, though, the shop's been quiet, so Hank decides to bring back the $1 slice. He asks Copilot in Microsoft Excel to look at his sales and costs and help him see if he can afford it. Copilot shows Hank where the money's going and which little extras make the dollar slice work. Now Hank has a line out the door. Hank makes the pizza, Copilot handles the spreadsheets. Learn more at m365copilot.com/work.
This episode is brought to you by Ferrero. Soccer's biggest stage is approaching, and Ferrero is making it easy to go all in. Pick any two Ferrero brands from Kinder Bueno to Ferrero Rocher, and you could win the $1 million grand prize, plus an exciting range of daily and weekly prizes. Don't miss your shot. Official rules apply. Learn more at goallinandwin.com.
You all think I'm licked. Well, I'm not licked. And I'm gonna stay right here and fight for this lost cause, even if this room gets filled with lies like these. And the Taylors and all their armies come marching into this place. Somebody will listen to me.
There's no better way to overpower a trickle of doubt than with a flood of naked truth.
But the complexity and the gray lie not in the truth, but what you do with the truth once you have it.
What is true and right is true and right for all.
You and I both know that that's just not the truth.
You can't handle the truth.
It's too messy. Keeps them up nights.
I'm here because in the end, the truth is worth the risk.
Speak a little truth and people lose their minds.
I'm a grown man, you can tell me the truth.
Why is it people who want the truth never believe it when they hear it?
So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do something really outrageous. I'm going to tell the truth.
Yaron Weitzman, former colleague at BR Mag, and somewhat of a perfect merging of stories in the NBA right now, with LeBron and the Lakers losing on Monday night, finally getting dispatched by the Oklahoma City Thunder in a merciful 4-game series. And also you have over here another guy who got mercifully swept in Daryl Morey with the 76ers. And now people are saying, oh, he might be on his way out. And so Yaron, I kind of feel like that was enough to have you on, but then you drop this bomb about the Emirates deal with the NBA. Yeah. And so where would you like to begin, Yaron? You are we're at the table and you can decide what we're going to eat first.
Ooh, I like it. I gotta say, maybe I have a soft spot for the Sixers. Let's start Sixers. They're like my firstborn. It's the book, and that's my first. Yeah, I have a soft spot there. Let's start there.
Yeah. Well, taking to the top, your book about the 76ers, do you think that the Joel Embiid having his kid at the podium is the latest controversy in the Joel Embiid story that we never saw coming?
Yeah, I gotta say though, I saw that. Sometimes you see that Nick Wright, right? That was a Nick Wright, basically. I mean, we all saw Embiid have his kid, at the podium. Nick sort of made a take out of it. And sometimes you scroll on social media and you're like, that's ridiculous. I saw that and I was like, you know what? That's a great take.
It's a great take.
I thought that was a great take. And it sounds like I'm making fun. I'm really not. I think it was a great take because I think it encapsulates, there's something true about it. Nobody wants to be the guy who says, don't have your kid there. But he's doing it for it is sort of no, you can go 10 minutes. It's a 10-minute press conference and B doesn't do more than that. I bet it wasn't even 10 minutes. He'll go 6.5. You don't need to have your kid there. We all know you're a great father. And the quote about I'll be judged how I'm a dad, whatever it was, right? It's all sort of under the same umbrella. Yeah, that's all great. And I'm glad you're a family man, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about basketball here.
I feel like it is though, a little bit of the red herring, right? Because there's nothing to stop the press from being as harsh as possible with basketball questions. You can say, okay, you can't say anything about the kid. Okay, just ignore the kid and ask him. And when he brings up fatherhood, then he's opening the door for you to talk about fatherhood in the context of this massive failure of a season. I just feel like people just kind of chicken out at the sight of a child, and they're like, oh, well, by the way, the kid's not old enough to understand what's happening.
Correct.
You can think what happened.
I don't know. I'm capital J with your own. I'm surprised, Amin, that you're not sticking up for your Pulitzer Prize winning cohort here. About the journalistic shield that he's creating is that he's trying to create an environment in which you are not able, he's setting the terms that you are not able to ask me hard-hitting questions because I have my child up here. My child should not be exposed
unless you can
to such negativity.
You see what I'm saying, Tom? Unless you can, which you absolutely can, right? It's all this implicit kind of thing that people do because like, oh, you wouldn't make a guy with his kid. Remember when we were growing up? You say, oh, you would hit a guy with glasses on. That was a thing in television shows and cartoons. Like guy wearing glasses, you wouldn't hit a guy with glasses on, and they're like, oh, and then you punch him in the stomach instead, right? But you could absolutely hit a guy with glasses on. There's no rule. There's no like fight police that are show up, oh, you hit a guy with glasses on. You could absolutely pop him right in his nose, right? Same thing here. Like, no one's gonna stop the press conference. Again, as long as you keep it to the basketball, as long as you continue to hammer home kind of your basketball questions, not sugarcoating it, not softening it, because who's it uncomfortable for in the worst case scenario? Look up for you, bro. You got to go home. You got to talk to the kid's mom and say, why did you have them up there when they were just grilling? Like, I don't know. Like, I go home, I'm fine. I sleep in my bed, I wake up, I'm great. So this whole thing about it's implying a discomfort that is reflected on the audience, but it's like moonlight, baby. I ain't got no light of my own. I'm reflecting your light. You're the sun. You're the reason for all of this. And so, yeah, man, I feel
what I would say this, I hear you. Maybe I'll phrase it like this. I do think it's emblematic of sort of how Embiid seemingly is treating his career and approaches the repeated failures, right? Like, I think there's something there that, like, you can show up and it's hard to fully articulate why it's off to bring your kid in that situation. Forget whether journalists are uncomfortable. And I would agree with you. And honestly, the funny part is if his kid wasn't there, sometimes reporters and press conferences are a little soft on questioning anyway. And that might have happened even if the kid wasn't there, right? Not to be, I guess we're inside the circle here, so we can say that. I do think, though, it represents sort of how Embiid's approaching, how he has approached his career in many points. And just like, it's not that you have to say, we've lost in the second round again, and therefore I'm a failure, and I'm going to go, I'm going to go sit in a dark room for 6 months. Like, I understand having perspective, but I think if you're a Sixers fan, you'd like to see a little more recognition of, yeah, man, this isn't going well.
But in a way, the last couple of years, haven't they all just been leading up to this? To
sure.
Nothing that happens can impact me. I have a gold medal. I'm a 2-time scoring champ. I'm an MVP. I'm 5-time All-NBA. I'm 7-time All-Star. I'm however many time with 3-time All-Defensive team. I've got all of this. Like, what are you gonna do to me? Oh my God, I didn't make it out. Took it out. So what? I'll be in Springfield with all the rest of them. And really,
you think he's there? You think he's there?
Tom, I just read the resume. That's a Hall of Fame.
No. I'm saying, do you think he feels that way about his career?
Dude, when he starts talking about like, oh, I thought it was a success because I really thought my knee was fucked. But now actually my knee's not. That's the language of a guy. It's like, he is, in essence, he's Carl Weathers in Arrested Development. Like, where he's just like, whoa, what do you do that? You get a stuco in here. Like, he's happy with the scraps of life now because it's like, oh, I did it all. There's nothing more for me other than to just like continue to survive at this point.
It's also the excuse. I remember, I think last time I was on we actually talked about that big article. I forgot the writer's name now who wrote it at ESPN. There was that big article. And I remember reading that, like, it was a really fascinating, interesting. And one of my takeaways was, oh, this guy's like, he's looking his career in the rearview mirror and it's not his fault. None of it's his fault. And that's sort of been the trend throughout of it. So that, to Amin's point, there probably is something like that. Like, it was Brian Colangelo's fault. And there was also a lot of Brian Colangelo blaming, he hasn't been there in 8 years. and this guy was injured and Ben Simmons, and it's everyone else's fault. And it's a lot of excuse making with Embiid. That's always been the case. And there's reasons for it. And he's dealt with tragedy and hard stuff. Like I understand and sympathetic to how he has sort of become this person. However, right, there's also been a lot of excuse making, and he often acts like, I'm above it. It's not my fault.
I think we should now have maybe it's the GM's daughter or the GM's son, a kid, just as like a prop.
Everyone just bring.
In Philly, Nick Sirianni did it at the beginning of this last Eagles season, and his was even more shameless because he was basically walking into a press conference where they were going to grill him.
And they are not soft. Like the Eagles reporters, they go at that. They're basically like, "Why do you suck?" Yeah.
So that was 100% like, hey, look at this distraction. I think his kids were a little older too, so it's like it wasn't even like a toddler on his lap.
21-year-old on your lap, and just like
9-year-old out here is to deflect some questions. So
I want the journalist to be like, "Wait, Jaylen Brown, that's actually Peyton Pritchard's kid on you. Why are you bringing them out? This is so weird."
Rent the kid.
Yeah. Well,
the only protection is to go Joe Mazzulla. Just say crazy things to everything. Right? And then it's like, hey, you feel, I feel just as empty as when we won the championship. You say something so out there that they have no comeback.
Isn't it crazy though, Yaron, how like last week the Sixers were on top of the world.
Yep.
And then now it's we gotta clean house. Nick Nurse, Daryl Morey, everyone's got to go. And I look at the situation. I'm like, what do you want the next GM to do? I don't see a way in which they can get off of Embiid's contract because that's going to be so challenging to move. Paul George the same way. And weren't we just a week ago just in cloud nine? They beat the Celtics and now they got to tear it down. So where are you on all this? And is it a referendum on Daryl Morey? And maybe I'm just an apologist here, but it just doesn't seem like. It just seems like knee-jerk reaction on Tuesday morning.
So I'd say it's a mix. One, what I agree with you on is that this was the ceiling of this team. Like Embiid, the ceiling of this team is one great playoff round because Embiid they still are dependent on Embiid, whether what he is, whatever. They're dependent on him and relying on him. They have Nick Nurse playing 6 guys basically in the series in the round against the Knicks. So you're not going to get more than a round out of that. And they got a round and they beat a team who, basically the Knicks and Celtics are the two who you'd want to beat if you're a Sixers fan, right? And they beat the Celtics and had it in great wins. So that to me is the ceiling. The Morey stuff is so interesting, right? Like what you're saying. It's his tenure in Philly is so hard to judge because the drafting has been great, not good, great. You can Maxey, Edgecombe, McCain. I'm sure we'll talk about McCain, but in terms of the actual drafting, like you can't do better than that. Those are all 3 guys. VJ was number 3, but Maxey and McCain were mid to late. The Paul George contract obviously wasn't good, but I always feel a need to point out that, and I mean, you guys know this, it was a use it or lose it cap space with Maxey pushing off the extension for a year. So what were they going to do? I mean, I guess now it looks like they should have brought back Tobias Harris, but I mean, I don't know where that came from Tobias, but right. But at that point, it was Paul George was the obvious move. The Embiid thing was obviously the mistake. If you talk to anyone from Philly, and I do bias a little bit. You talk to other GMs around the NBA too. Like stuff gets more complicated with the personalities. That if you're paying one guy, then Embiid's recruiting Paul George, and you're getting Paul George. I guess you can just say bleep it. Like you're gonna have to own it or whatever. But Embiid's persnickety, I don't know. I don't know if that would have been so black and white. Yeah. So, but Morey has made mistakes. He's definitely made mistakes, and this is his team, and he does this. Like Al Horford's no longer there. Tobias is no longer there. Like this is his group he built. I don't know. I know I'm not fully answering your question. I think this is sort of where they're at, where they bridged it, and now we have Maxey and Edgecombe, and we wait to see what happens there.
Yeah, I always felt like there was a window where you could have traded Embiid, and it would have been a very bold move. Mm-hmm. But I remember last time we talked, Jaron, I was like, how much of this stuff do you think is surprising in that feature? How much do you think comes as a surprise to Daryl or anyone, Elton or any of the other guys there? And you said, not much of it. They pretty much knew all this. You knew this is a guy who fundamentally does not trust, has a lack of trust. And I said at the time, you cannot build a championship team around a guy who fundamentally doesn't trust the people in the room around you. You knew it. No one else in the world really knew it. Plus the injuries. Plus there was that window where it's like he's got money on the books, but it's not that ridiculous 3-year deal that they ended up giving him. Once that happened, you're stuck. You might as well write it out because you're never going to be able to fix it. And the irony is they have the makings of something promising. Like a life after Embiid has become apparent through this season with the play of Edge coming in, obviously the growth of Maxey. But, man, I think Daryl just there's only so many of these dice rolls you can do.
Well, and that's also part of, and I was going to say his approach, it's the title or bust approach. The ironic part about Embiid is Daryl, he showed up to a team that already had Embiid. Mm-hmm. I also think, I agree with you in terms of like the stuff that, and the people, reporting on this basically for 10 years now, which I can't believe it's been that long, but like reporting on Embiid for 10 years, there are a lot of people who had said basically from the beginning, like a guy with that personality and these characteristics and habits, again, not a franchise guy. There's a difference between a great player and a franchise, best player on a championship team. That's not him. The ironic part is Daryl will probably be the guy who would say, nah, I don't care about that stuff. Like I would trade for Embiid in his prime because I don't care about that. I want just talent. And then maybe that's a blind spot of his, right? But he ended up, he inherited him, so it's not like he went out of his way to get him. But I assume he would have said, no, we have an MVP, and that's what you need to win a title, and that's all I care about. It's like, I'm not trying to make the conference finals. I'm trying to win a title, and that's why I'm going to stick with Embiid, because he gives us a ceiling that not you could trade him, but that maybe, I don't know who's, because Ivica Zubac does not, right? He could be a better player, but you don't have the same ceiling if he's your center. So,
Tom, you doing some light reading over there? What's going on?
Just doing some reading, taking me to the top.
It's a good book.
I think this is topical, given the Sixers' history with Markelle Fultz, and the Washington Wizards just got the number 1 overall pick. And there's a lot of talk about whether they'll trade down and maybe get the guy that they actually want and have someone else come up ahead. And chapter 13, quote, "This is not the fucking kid we drafted." I saw earlier Chad Ford on Kevin O'Connor's show said he would love to see the documentary on Markelle Fultz after he got drafted number 1 overall. Colangelo makes the move. What do you think is the most interesting part of that story if you were to do the documentary about the Jason Tatum, Markelle Fultz draft and whatever happened to Markelle Fultz?
A couple things. One, I'm going to go to the end. It's still unclear what exactly happened there. Like, we have a mix, and I'd put that there's some sort of mental, I don't know what the word is, short circuiting, right? That contributed to that. And I know Fultz did some, he was back, and there was some puff piece profiles of like, he never came back. He never figured out how to shoot again. This was a guy who was a 40% shooter in college from 3, like off
he's unbelievable.
Right.
Yeah.
Like that's, and I always am a little like, I'll make apologies on behalf of Colangelo. What I'll say is that entering the draft, Markelle Fultz was the consensus number 1 pick by basically everybody, except, this goes document, except the Celtics. The Celtics saw something in their workout, and you talk about where scouting, like there was, and that would be the thing. They saw something, and I had some of it where like Fultz, one of his coaches said he didn't do well. There are a lot of white people around there, that old white guys in the room, I think was a quote given to me. Like they saw something, but everyone else had Fultz as the number 1 guy. I mean,
Yeah, you're on, except for the Celtics, and it wasn't the workout. This is the weirdest thing. This is like the loopholes and the crazy rules around the NBA. NBA executives are not allowed to scout high school players except for very strict things like Hoop Summit, Adidas Nations, and then obviously any national team play, under 17, under 19, under 21, etc. With the exception, obviously, if you are a father and your son plays AAU, and so you can go to as many AAU tournaments as you want because you're there with your son. Danny Ainge's youngest son played AAU against Markelle Fultz like a bajillion times.
Get him in the press conference.
Yeah, he was exactly sit him on the podium with him. But yeah, so Danny was able to, in essence, get first look at Markelle Fultz and have access to people in and around that time well before anyone else did. And so they knew the workout must have been just the cherry on top.
Yeah.
But Danny knew already, I don't want this dude. I got the number 1 pick, and I don't want this dude. But he didn't make that obviously known to Brian. And so BC is like, we got a chance to get our guy. So they do the trade, and then the rest obviously is history. But they knew, and they knew well before the draft, well before the kid stepped foot on Washington's campus. Yeah.
So that to me, right, that angle of it's sort of like how you have everyone else. And probably something to be said about how draft consensus is built, right? It's probably something interesting to remember as we enter the draft, right? Enter draft period, and you have mock drafts, and by Givoni and other people put out these names, and consensuses are built around there, and there's some sort of self-fulfilling cycle in terms of like they have this person, therefore I have that person. Anyway, so everyone has faults except the Celtics, right? That to me is just fascinating, and how you sort of play that out, how you play that poker. Because think about that hand of poker you have to play to try to give up the number one pick without making obvious that like, oh, I don't want this guy, right?
Right.
Yeah. That's the whole poker game that we're seeing right now is like the Wizards have to be like, yeah, we actually really want AJ Dybantsa really badly.
Yep.
So give us 2 first-round picks in order to go get him.
You think Danny's playing that game? Come on now, man. because the other thing that needed to happen in that draft, remember, they had 3. They didn't have 2. They had 3. Right. So they had to make sure that they could leapfrog the Lakers. But Danny also knew that the Lakers and Magic were dead set on Lonzo
everyone
Ball.
knew, right? Now, talk about the opposite of poker. Oh, it's poker with your cards up or whatever, blind man's bluff, where like you have your card here and everyone else can see it. Like it's like that. It's like Magic's walking around with the Lonzo card, plastered on his forehead that everyone else can see.
So you had this crazy confluence of events that allowed for this thing to happen. And so fast forward now, I think you think about the draft lottery, how it plays out. And if you're Washington, I know, you could play this game, but the reality is this is a gift from the NBA gods. It's like you are about to hinge your franchise on 2 incredibly unreliable people. Now you've got, I've got another piece that I can add to Sarr and Carrington and George and all these other guys that have played really well for me. I can still have Anthony Davis go out there and be Anthony Davis, and then I find the next sucker. To me, that's the play. But if they're trying to play poker and trying to get Danny to move up or whatever, I think that's just a dangerous game.
Yeah, it certainly could be. I think I like the whole find a new slant. Andrea Bargnani was a good pick that you detailed in your book about how Brian Colangelo was convinced that Bargnani was a home run.
Yeah, that one I'll be less, I can find excuses for faults, right? That one I can if everyone was in that one. Bargnani, maybe not so much.
So again, this goes back to the psychology of who's doing the picking. Brian Colangelo, noted Italiophile. I don't know but like the type of guy who believes that everything is better in Italy, including the women. That's why his wife is Italian and not American, right? Brian Colangelo bespoke suits and custom shirts from Italy. Like
we're aware, yeah.
So Brian Colangelo hires what was my man? There was the assistant GM. He was a GM who came from Italy. He was Messina's GM in Italy.
Maurizio Gherardini.
Yep, Maurizio.
Nailed it.
Producer Anthony Mays.
All of this stuff is all swirling around, and so it's like you got this kid. He's coming out of, was it Treviso or whatever, 7 feet tall, shoots threes, like this is the next Dirk. Done deal. In the same way that Tony Ronzoni a few years earlier had sold the Pistons on Darko Milicic. That's the guy. Everyone in Europe knows that's the guy, whatever. These were people who were walking in with an implicit Euro bias that like these players here have been playing professional basketball since they were like 17 or 16 or whatever. And so no matter what their stats are, I'm telling you, they're better than any kid in college in America. Conversely, this same thing would come back to bite however many teams 10 years later when Luka Doncic is coming in the draft and everyone's like, oh, I've seen Bargnani and all those guys are like, yeah, none of those guys were MVP of Europe and MVP of Spain and MVP of every major tournament that the kid had played in. So it was kind of like the guys that failed had no resume to speak of, but we're supposed to take them for their word. And then the guy who succeeded, who everyone doubted, this guy was incredible.
Maurizio scouted Bargnani as a teenager and was his GM at Benetton Treviso. So there you go.
I mean, what you're saying is like, it's not to get too professorial academic sports, but the NBA in general, I find is such an interesting ground to study like sociology and how decisions are made and how these biases impact us. Because you see it play out in all these different ways and the ways sort of the brain can mess people up, right? And lead to giant mistakes.
Your own. My favorite type of that is when you get the GM who's a former player who takes a shine to a player because he reminds him of himself.
Yeah,
which is the weirdest fucking thing in the world. A next level of narcissism that's just insane. I remember working for a guy in Phoenix who did exactly that. He picked this journeyman guy who's a decent, good player for Europe, right? But, played domestically here in college. After his college career, goes and plays in Europe. And he's like a tough, scrappy guy, the perfect kind of European player. He takes him, and when I say takes him, I mean prioritizes him over Goran Dragic, who had just gotten off scoring 27 points in the fourth quarter against the Spurs in the playoff. And we're all sitting around like, what the fuck? And then I figured out, I was like, oh, it's because he reminds me of you. You were a college star. You went over to Europe. You flamed out. You played in some shitty European leagues. And you probably sat there the whole time, man, if someone gave me another chance, I'd show them. And so now in his mind, he was given this is the opportunity that I never had, which is just an insane way to make a basketball decision.
I'm glad you left that name out and masked it well. Good job.
He's no longer with us, so I'm being nice.
Where is Daredevil?
I'm right here. Don't miss the return of Marvel Television's Daredevil Born Again.
So what's next?
I feel liberated.
We're gonna take this city back.
Over medicated. In an all-new season, now streaming only on Disney+.
They're hunting us. It's time we started hunting them.
I can work with that.
This should be tons of fun.
Marvel Television's Daredevil Born Again, now streaming only on Disney+.
AI is moving fast across the enterprise. But without visibility, it's just chaos. Different tools, different models, different teams using AI in completely different ways. ServiceNow turns that chaos into control. With the AI Control Tower, you see all your AI across the business in one place. What it's doing, what it's done, and what it's about to do. So you stay in control. To put AI to work for people, visit servicenow.com.
Now at McDonald's, a McDouble is $2.50, so you can get your gym gains on, or just get lunch for only $2.50. Get more value on the under $3 menu.
Limited time only. Prices and participation may vary. Prices may be higher for delivery.
I like to think that this is why the Lakers drafted Bronny. He's like, this guy really reminds me of myself.
Of course. Exactly.
This guy's a really good prospect.
Even LeBron's like,
Jeannie Buss was thinking that. She's like, you have a really famous dad with a lot of success.
I was going to say the Nepin, there's definitely I bet there is something, you want to talk about getting into psychology. I bet there's something there for sure with Jeannie.
You know what's crazy about that? I was thinking about this actually the other day when I was I think game 3, I saw Bronny. It was game 3 or game 2, Bronny got in the game for a little bit. And I was thinking about, how crazy that selection was? It was so crazy that when it happened, the talking point that all the Lakers surrogates were doing was like, well, there's nepotism everywhere. Why is it a problem now? I'm like, you can't even defend him as a talent, as a prospect? You go straight to well, there's nepotism everywhere. Why are we pretending like nepotism doesn't exist? Like, damn.
No, I'll give you the one person. Not Tom. JJ came out the next. JJ defended it. Right? He's like, Bronny earned this, but that almost came out worse. He protest too much. He came out the next day and was like, Bronny earned this. Anyone says otherwise is wrong. Bronny earned this.
Yeah.
When we look at the Lakers offseason right now, Yaron, what are some of the cliff notes that the fans, the Illumination out there need to be watching? Who are the power players? Who's really calling the shots here with the Lakers? And does the new ownership change things that muddies the picture where Rob Pelinka's at the press conference and we're hiring 2 assistant GMs? What's going on here?
So actually, it's funny. So I'll have scoop my side. I'm working on something on this, but I saw Rob was talking about this basically as we're recording too. The Dodgers thing, that ownership group, that's the thing to pay attention to, right? Like it's still Rob calling the shots, my understanding. But Rob Pelinka is no dummy. Some people might say in some places he is, but in this stuff he's not. Like he knows how to play the game as well as anybody. So you're going to start hearing him talk a lot about analytics and the need for infrastructure and how like he's going to use all the buzzwords. He's going to sound like a Sloan panel in 2009, right? Is what he's going to sound like. He's just going to use all these buzzwords because he knows how to do that. And to me, I think this is the biggest thing, what this takeover looks like, because this is going to be the offseason where it happens, right? And maybe not fully, like Rob Pelinka's still there, but we're going to start seeing Dodgers people, or I should say Mark Walter people, who's the owner. I guess people are aware, but Mark Walter owns the Dodgers. He bought the Lakers, and it's already out there. But Andrew Freeman, who's the GM of the Dodgers, and Farhan Zaidi, I hope I'm pronouncing his last name correctly, who is a consultant for Mark Walter, but is a longtime baseball GM. He was with the A's and the Giants, worked the Dodgers. So he's also more doing stuff, consulting sort of for the Lakers. Almost like this Bob Myers-ish role for Mark Walter. That Bob Myers is sort of the sports point guy for Josh Harris on all their teams. Mark Walter, they own fewer teams, I believe. Maybe there's some other tucked away in some like European soccer team I'm not aware of. But Farhan Zaidi is the guy doing that. And so they're going to beef up performance staff. I know they talked about they're going to hire 2 assistant GMs. They already started hiring. I mean, like the best example of what that difference that means I could bring up is I remember when I was reporting the book, another GM, like the example he gave, he's like, if Rob was on a plane and we needed to reach the Lakers, I wouldn't even know who to call, who would be the next person to call. Like that's how it was just a one-man operation. The Ramesses were involved and stuff. But yeah, go ahead, Amin.
And that's by the way, by design. That's not Rob's choice. That's how the Buss family ran that shit. They ran it lean. This is a team, despite being this global brand or whatever, laid people off before the lockout, so they wouldn't have to pay them for the dark months. And this is what every player or agent has said to me off the record is like, yeah, everyone gets shocked when they get to the Lakers. Like, wait a second, what do you mean? Where's the family room with where are these bells and whistles in the family room that we're accustomed to with other teams? Where's the organization on this side? Where is all the infrastructure? And the answer is, we're the Lakers. We don't have to do any of that stuff.
Yeah.
And so I'm very curious what that's going to look like. I'm wondering if Mark Walter's going to be like, hey, you know what? We're going to go back to those blue Laker jerseys
right.
from Minneapolis just to keep the format the same, you know?
Well, to answer your question, it's funny because I was talking to some baseball people recently, and I remember I was big about this kind of stuff, and I was like, I wonder what this looks like. And someone said it's going to look like the Dodgers, right? This is basically what happened when he bought the Dodgers. They were sort of that. Again, I'm not as in on baseball. My understanding is, again, big brand, sort of lean and mean. You want to say in a nice way, not nice way, cheap, right? And Mark Walter comes in, they bring in Andrew Freeman, they build up all these different internal staffs and infrastructure and all that stuff. And what does it look like? It looks like it's this behemoth in baseball, right? That's winning, back to back, which baseball in terms of how randomized it can be is hard. And players love going there because they think it's got the best development staff and analytics staff, and it can help them and all this stuff, right? So the answer is, what does it look like? I think and this is what scares people around the NBA, right? Is if you combine the Lakers aura and draw of that with like, oh wait, now we have this whole other thing, like, oh god, we have a monster here.
Did you do much reporting on the Luka Doncic trip to Spain, or the severity of that injury, and what the odds of him coming back in this postseason were? Because it seemed like to me, when we were looking at the Lakers in the postseason, I think there were a lot of people who assumed because he went overseas that he was going to be back a lot sooner. And what we learned after the series, Luka was like, I was nowhere near close to coming back.
So I have nothing different on that. I mean, I have no unique reporting on that one. That'd just be the same that we heard.
Because a lot of it was he's not. LeBron's got to carry this team because you got also the oblique injury for Austin Reeves, and so it goes into this offseason of just a lot of questions about whether Austin Reeves will be back, at what price, unrestricted free agent. And what is the Hollywood ending here, to use a pun from your book title? Like, what is the Hollywood ending for LeBron? Does he want to come back? Do you think that the idea of him going to the Golden State Warriors or the Cavs or the Knicks, does that, on your big board, does that make sense?
So a couple of things on this. One, I genuinely believe that he doesn't know yet what he wants to do. Like, I genuinely believe that's the case, that he doesn't know where he wants to be next year, and that there's no master plan. At least entering this year, there was no master plan in terms of this is it, or I'm going to do 2 years here. I think he sort of was unsure and just sort of playing it by ear. Could be wrong, but that's my, that's not a report. It's like kind of an educated guess, right? Yeah. In terms of with the Lakers, I was someone until they sort of figured this out, and he sort of embraced this third option thing, which was a real thing. We saw it. You don't even need reporting to see it. You could watch the games, you would see it, right? Him sort of cutting and embracing this idea of I'm the third guy. Until that, I was convinced it was done with LA, and I was convinced that they were done with him too. And I always joke, Rob Pelinka, or I shouldn't say Rob Pelinka, Jeannie Buss hadn't exactly hit her willingness to part ways with LeBron, right? Like she had made it very clear that like, we were good with this running this course. I do think the team found something at the end here that I think he seemed to genuinely enjoy and that he seemed to like to be a part of. He's in LA. The Warriors to me is the interesting one, right? The Cleveland thing seems, I guess it makes sense. I guess let's go backward the other way. I think the only teams that you could even think of are Cavs, Warriors, and Lakers. I don't think the Knicks are there, especially by the way they're winning. So like they're not going to add him. So it's those three. He's not going to go anywhere else. The Cavs, it's just everyone also forgets like they have agency in this too, and I don't know if they want that. They've built this post LeBron thing that they're proud of, and like they should be. Whether they get knocked out of the playoffs again early, it's whatever. But like they should be proud of this. And even if LeBron's not your guy, if he comes back to Cleveland, he's running like he's the organization, and not because he's a jerk or an egomaniac. It's just LeBron in Cleveland. Suddenly everything's about him again. I don't know that they necessarily want that. So yeah, I guess he was willing to come on a minimum, and like they can win the East. God bless, but I just don't see it. To me, it's the Lakers, and I actually think that's probably most likely. And the Warriors is the other one, especially with Kerr coming back.
Do you see them, the Lakers, engaging in any sort of sign and trade to help him get to where he wants to go?
It's a great question. Short answer, I don't know. Right. I also don't know. It goes back to the original quest, what we were talking about a few minutes ago. I don't know where Mark Walter is on this stuff at all. Like him, I don't know in terms of how important this is. Does he care about LeBron coming back? Does he care about the ideas of I'm going to be the owner who lets LeBron go? He might not care at all. It might just be a whole basketball decision. Like I genuinely do not know how he would approach that decision. And to me, it's a variable that's tough to sort of read. Like we know Jeannie was sort of into the sort of the marketing and the headlines and how this stuff all matters. I don't know where Mark Walter comes from this stuff. And I imagine a decision like LeBron, even if it's not a max deal, and it's going to be a Rob Pelinka, I assume he'll defer to the front office, but I imagine that's a decision that ownership has a big say in terms of pointing the front office in a direction. So it's a great question. I don't know.
In this latest story, NBA cut out middleman from lucrative Emirates deal, lawsuit says by Yaron Weitzman. Yaron, are you combing like court records for NBA? Like search NBA, search Kiki Vandeweghe.
Tom, like the old school like reporters, they just be in the courthouse and then they got the bank of phones right there. Like, I got a hot one right here.
I wish that'd be so much easier if I could have somebody tip me off. So honestly, that one I did. I was literally just, bored. Just always looking for stories, and I was playing around with the Pacer system, and you put an NBA and you find some stuff, and found this one kind of hidden there about It's a weird
Pacer
one.
system, by the way, is the court record search filing thing. Record. It's not like he was in the Indiana Pacers and found the story.
I was looking up Kevin Pritchard's files and see if he had anything.
He's crying and apologizing.
Right. Anything about understanding how a 50-50 coin flip works. So yeah, I saw that, and I think there's a lot of nonsense. If you look in the court records, you see a lot of nonsense suits. Like just because, to make clear to the listeners, like just because somebody sues somebody doesn't mean anyone can sue anybody. It doesn't mean there's any validity to it. What was interesting about this is that there are these emails attached to this lawsuit from Kiki Vandeweghe, who is the, NBA fans know, but he's a longtime player and executive and was sort of the senior vice president of operations. Basically, like Adam Silver always has a guy who's like his basketball guy, right? It was Kiki Vandeweghe, and there was Joe Dumars. I think it's James Jones now, right?
Jones now, yep.
Yeah, there's like just a guy who's like the guy. He's the basketball guy who's in the front office, who's in the league office, I should say. And there are these emails. Like the only reason I would report this is because there are these emails from him to this random guy named Paul Edelon, I believe. I might be mispronouncing his last name. There's an Iranian American. Everything I know about him is from this court document and his LinkedIn profile, so not much. But basically, Kiki Vandeweghe saying the NBA is interested in trying to reach out to Emirates Airlines to become our new sponsor of our new airline, official airline. Can you help facilitate, basically? Which I just found, and they went back and forth. I just found that's weird and hilarious. And like, whether the lawsuit, I'm not a lawyer, right? So the NBA claims there was no actual agreement. All that stuff is almost secondary to me. The part that's interesting is like, this is how the NBA does business. As a friend of mine asked, he was like, doesn't the NBA, can't they just like Adam Silver just email like at Emirates.com, like, I'm Adam Silver, can you get on the phone? Like it was it was so weird.
How do you not have that like a point person? I guess this guy is the point person, but why are they emailing? If
in the same way that NBA stars at a bar sometimes will be like, tell their friend, go ask that girl for her number. Like, just walk up there. You're, you are.
That's the part that was interesting to me, right? That like he emailed this middleman. It wasn't even, and this guy pulled out, it's not even from Emirates. He's like just a random guy who Kiki Vandeweghe was friends with, unclear from where. But like that, again, that there's no just like contact us form that you can just fill out and be like, yo, we're the NBA. Can we talk?
The most hilarious part of your story is that Kiki Vandeweghe, who works for the NBA, reaches out to his buddy, we don't know how they're buddies, and says, hey, you've got dealings in the Middle East. Right. Can you hook us up with the Emirates? And he said, I got it. And then he picked up the phone, and then he called some other dude who doesn't work for the Emirates either. He's like, yeah, I'm here. I know a guy over here. And then that guy picked up the phone and called another guy who doesn't work there anymore, by the way.
For sure.
And then that guy recommended him to, like, it just seems... There's two parts of the story that stretches credulity, right? That part right there, right? That it would take that kind of level of telephone when, again, I'm Adam Silver. Hello, Mr. Emirates, whoever it is. Exactly. Get on the phone. And then the other part was where it's like, I made the introduction. This happened in 2014. And the NBA was like, yeah, we actually had done other things in 2012 or 2013. They sponsored some games for us in China. So it's like, even if your thing is true and you're the guy, the icebreaker, the one that made it happen, clearly there was already a pre-existing relationship.
Which then begs the question of like, why? So so are they dumb or like the right hand's not talking to the left? Like why and I should add, Kiki Vandeweghe then, this is an email. This isn't allegedly, this is an email they attached to the exhibit. He loops in Mark Tatum, who is the deputy, listeners probably know, number 2, the deputy commissioner in the NBA. He loops in Mark Tatum, and it's like, again, if you read the emails, it looks no different than, it reminds me of like if I try like networking and try to get a job somewhere and it's like, oh, you know this guy who knows this guy. Can you loop me in? And he sees him on the email and says, great to meet you and all that. Like the whole thing was just wild. So Mark Tatum's in on this too. Yeah, I'm with you. It's really strange.
Yeah, there's no 10% agreement, right? As far as we know, the emails suggest that there is,
go ahead, Amin.
That would be insane.
So,
that would be an insane deal to strike for a company as big as the NBA that's doing a deal as big as they are for the official airline.
So this guy, Paul Adelot, claims that the NBA agreed on that he was the broker, whatever traffic term they use, and they agreed to a 10% of the commission. That part, there's no email on that. So that is just, he said, that is just their word. Like there's no, and if you're analyzing it, if you're playing, sleuth, you would say probably a little suspicious that like everything else has exhibits of emails. That part does not. So again, I'm not a lawyer. I purposely, like in the story, like we weren't trying to analyze who's going to win because that's not the interesting part. I mean, it's interesting, but like who cares in a way, just whatever. That's just rich people talking to rich people about money. I would assume that a lawyer would say, no, you need like some kind of proof of that. Otherwise, like why they're not committing to that. But correct that he is claiming that there was a promise of 10%. All the other weird part I'll say though is what he claims. Again, this is no email, but they claim that Kiki Vandeweghe so this deal goes on hold in 2014. Delta comes back to the table. 2024, maybe I'm getting these dates wrong a little bit, but the NBA makes a deal with Emirates Airline. Underlying all this is, and you guys have talked about this, but the NBA is trying to expand into the Middle East area and the Gulf regions and try to get some of that investment wealth, sovereign wealth fund money, which makes sense. Sports washing and all that stuff. Anyway, after this deal comes through, this person, Elhassan, alleges that Kiki Vandeweghe called him and said, you have to look into this. So who knows?
Tom, he called him like Marvin Berry in Back to the Future. This is your cousin, Marvin. Marvin Berry. Remember that whole deal with the Emirates Airlines? Well, listen to this. It's all, but like, clearly there's a lawyer who's filing these. Like, this isn't.
No, the lawyer said not an interview with me, but this was covered in like a small trade magazine article. He said, "I hope there's a trial. Obviously, you're going to project strongly, like that's the move. But God, I mean, again, as like consumer and like whatever, as us on the outside, I hope there's because that means Mark Tatum, Kiki Vandeweghe, like get all these people. Like I want to see all this. This would be just show us how the NBA business is done. Give me depositions of all this stuff. I mean, that would be great. I don't know if we'll make it there, but I mean." I think that's how we all win, right? If there's a trial and these people have to answer questions under oath. So, yeah.
Discovery, all the good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I want to know who this middleman is. Like the fact that your own weren't able to get like a lot on him, you know?
Which one, Tom?
The middleman who connected him to the middleman, or
this guy Paul Adelaide. He's got like a bunch of It's funny if you Google his websites. He's got like I think he's someone who's got like 12 of his own websites and bios. Like there's different companies, and it's a pharmaceutical executive, and they read like AI. I'm not saying he wrote him AI, but they read like if you were to say make up a pharmaceutical executive AI bio that like is all surface level, and yet if the reporter you're trying to translate it and it's like I don't even know what this means. This is just saying gobbledygook. Or it reads like LinkedInese, I'll call it. You know. So yeah, I have no idea where or anything.
Yaron, how much, because I know you referenced some of these emails are in there, how much of the communications alleged to be from Vandeweghe are in writing? Including
all the original
hey,
ones.
you should look at this.
That one not, right? That would be that one not. But the original ones, like introducing to Paul, we want to do Emirates. Can you help us? And then Paul responding to him, calling my dearest friend, like and looping in Mark Tatum. That stuff is all. That's in writing. The stuff that's not in writing, there's a letter from Kiki Vandeweghe, an NBA official letterhead, enlisting, I guess would be a good word, enlisting this guy Paul Adelaide to go speak to Emirates for them. Nothing about a 10% agreement in there, but as a representative of that, the thing what's not, I guess the key points that's not in writing are this 10% agreement, and you should look into this. Those are the key points that are not.
Yeah, the 10% on the deal, but also any future business is the funny part. Like if that was in writing, that would be some sloppy work.
Royalties on that.
Great deal.
It'd be one thing to do like the main sponsorship at the time, but it's like, yeah, let's just anything in the future. This guy's got it on tap. But I do like the idea of Paul Adelaide being, going about his business, selling pharmaceuticals or whatever, and then 10 years later, he's like, "What the hell? The Emirates come? That was me!"
Flipping on Amazon and seeing it, right?
Hey man, can't even give me some tickets to Vegas.
It's so good, exactly.
All right, Yaron, thanks so much for joining us. A returnee on our Truth Teller portion of Basketball Illuminati. A Hollywood ending and tanking to the top. You can go get it at your bookstores on Amazon to read Weitzman's latest. Thank you so much for covering the league and doing things you do in this story. I feel like this is just like the appetizers to the main event, main course, to mix up a metaphor there. Yeah. I want this story to continue because I need to know more about this middleman who was just woke up one day and be like, wait, I know the Emirates? Like, I know that. I got to figure out a way to do this.
Well, he doesn't know the Emirates. He knows a guy who knows a guy who knows the Emirates.
Yeah. That's it. We all got to make our living somehow, you know?
Amen.
Thanks, guys.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
There's a new way to sweet green.
Meet Wraps. Handheld, hearty, and made for life on the move. With bold, chef-crafted flavors, fresh ingredients, and over 40 grams of protein, they're built to satisfy without slowing you down. Try Wraps today in the app or at order.sweetgreen.com. Available at all participating locations.